The city of Samaria was suffocating under a brutal siege. The Syrian army had surrounded it completely, cutting off food, water, and every glimmer of hope. Inside the walls, famine had reached horrifying levels. Mothers wept through the night. Children cried from hunger, and even the king walked the streets in despair. Every home whispered the same question: is this how Israel will end? In the midst of this darkness, the prophet Elisha declared a prophecy that sounded impossible. He said, "By this time tomorrow, food will be plentiful. Fine flour and barley will be sold cheaply at the city gate." People murmured in disbelief. One of the king's officers mocked openly, saying, "Even if God opened the windows of heaven, could this really happen?" But unknown to them, God was already at work in a way no one could have imagined. Just outside the city gate sat 4 lepers, men rejected, outcast, and treated as though their lives had no value. Too sick to enter the city and too weak to wander, they sat in the dust, staring into the distance with hollow eyes. Finally, one of them spoke the words that would change everything. "Why should we sit here until we die?" Their choices were grim. If they entered the city, there was no food and they would die. If they stayed where they were, they would die slowly. But if they went to the Syrian camp, the enemy might kill them or might show mercy. So, with nothing left to lose, these 4 frail, hungry men rose and started walking toward the enemy camp. They had no weapons, no strength, and no plan, only a desperate faith that perhaps God could still move. As the lepers walked, step by step, God intervened. He amplified their weak, dragging footsteps into a terrifying sound in the ears of the Syrian soldiers. The enemy heard thunderous chariots, pounding horses, and the march of a massive invading army. Fear exploded through their camp. The Syrians screamed, "The king of Israel has hired the Hittites and Egyptians to attack us." Panic seized them, and in total confusion, they abandoned everything: food, tents, clothing, gold, weapons, and fled into the night, running for their lives. When the 4 lepers reached the camp, they found it silent and empty. Not a single soldier remained. They entered the first tent and froze in disbelief. Food, real food, was everywhere. Bread, meat, wine, more than they had seen in years. They rushed in, eating until they were full, laughing, shouting with joy. They grabbed silver, gold, and garments, hiding some of the treasure. But in the middle of their excitement, one of them stopped and said, "What we are doing is not right. This is a day of good news, and we are keeping it to ourselves." So they hurried back to the city, shouting to the gatekeeper, "The Syrian army has fled. The camp is full of food and treasure." At first, the city doubted. But when scouts confirmed the miracle, the starving people surged out of the gates like a flood. They stormed the camp, gathered food, and celebrated wildly. The famine broke instantly, and Elisha's prophecy came true exactly as spoken. Flour and barley were sold cheaply at the gate the very next day. God had delivered an entire nation, not through warriors or kings, but through 4 rejected lepers whose simple decision to move forward unleashed a miracle. Their weakness became God's weapon. Their steps became a mighty army's march, and their courage brought hope to a starving nation.